Welcome back to Truth Bombs and Tea. If you are part of our community already, and if not, welcome for the first time. I'm really very stoked that you are here. So today's video is all about how to heal resentment, anger, and even hatred at some point or in some levels within people. So this is part two of a two-part series, obviously. The first one was last week, and it was about how to handle and even avoid conflict. And if you look around today, there's a lot of conflict around, and whether that's in your romantic relationship, your family relationship, your work relationship, whatever the case may be, disagreements are natural because we're all individuals, but conflict is a choice. When you disagree, there's still boundaries and mutual respect. Conflict sort of degrades into personal, irrational, and overly emotional reactions. Okay. So do check that one out. I go through the different types of relationships and how to handle any disagreements so that they don't turn into conflicts. I also show you some tips about how to apply this and 5 indicators of a successful, healthy relationship and how to get there. So it's a really great video. And also check out the blog on the website, truthbombsandtea.com, if you prefer to read. And I'll link the video in the show notes below. So today's focus is all about how to heal from those conflicts because, words have power. People's attitudes and behaviors can cut deep. And sometimes we carry those around for months or years or even lifetimes. So, how do we heal from that? So, I'm going to go through that with you now. I've got just a few notes here to make sure I keep on track. And it's important to sort of have an understanding of that. Because when I talk to people, they say, well, I'm not going to forgive that person because, they were horrible to me. They're toxic, they're assholes, whatever, right? And I totally get that. And I've been there. But I think there's a little bit of a misnomer, a bit of a myth about forgiveness, that when you forgive someone, it's kind of condoning their behavior and telling them that that's okay that they behave like that. And that is not at all what forgiveness is. Forgiveness is really taking the burden off you, the burden of carrying around like these hurts, this anger that's simmering there, this pure kind of hatred, this negative, heavy load that you're carrying. And that load doesn't do anything. There's a famous sort of saying, and I'm riffing on this, it's not verbatim, but it says that, you know, revenge is like drinking poison and expecting someone else to die, right? And holding on to grudges is the same because you're drinking the poison. You're kind of swallowing down all this resentment, anger, and hatred. And the only person that is affecting is you. Like that other person probably doesn't even know, may not even care. And even if you are showing the hatred, it still doesn't really kind of affect them. It might give them a shock or might make them stop talking to you, but they're not the ones holding it, right? And it's the holding of it that's very toxic. And research has shown that it can affect your mental health, obviously your emotional health, and then your physical health as well. Okay. So when I was a yoga teacher, we looked at the body and we sort of mapped out the different energy centers, chakras, etc. And as within, so without. So, for example, your internal state starts to manifest or starts to produce results in the physical body, right? And one of the things, let me give you a couple of examples. If you have like chronic inflammation, like arthritis, gout, um, any other associated autoimmunes from chronic inflammation. That was said to be long-standing resentment and bitterness, right? And that comes out in the body. Something like high blood pressure or things wrong with the heart is really reflected in a lack of love that you've received growing up. And as a result, it's a lack of love towards yourself and a non-trust of it in other people. Okay. So that's kind of the spiritual, emotional manifestations, plus all those neurological, mental, emotional, and physical problems that research has shown that come from carrying around all this stuff, right? So forgiveness is not about the other person. That might be a bonus. The whole point of forgiveness is to release yourself, right? So there's a 5-step process I want to go through. So the first one is acknowledge the hurt. When you forgive someone, it's not to say that you suppress your own needs and you think, oh, I'll keep the peace and I'll just take it. And it's not about being delusional and thinking, oh, that didn't happen, or continually making excuses for their bad behavior. You acknowledge the hurt. Okay. That's the first step. If you don't even acknowledge that you've been hurt, you can't start the process of actually forgiving someone and releasing all that anger, right? So avoidance doesn't work. And I touched on that in the first video, so I won't go through that again in depth. But avoidance just kicks the can down the road and the can gets bigger and bigger and bigger, right? So the problem actually gets bigger and worse if you avoid it. So acknowledging the hurt. So for example, say you're in a business with a business partner, and I was talking to a friend, unfortunately, that this happened to, and the business folded because the business partner was not doing the finances properly, was not picking up the slack, and unfortunately they had to close their business. And she was really, really bitter about it, and I totally get it. But what she decided to do was go to a counselor, like a therapist, about it. Instead of just like cursing the person out, she started to get some help and support around it. And she actually did end up forgiving the person. I mean, they don't talk, they're not besties or anything like that by any stretch. But she let it go and moved on. Like now she's looking at starting up something on her own, right? So acknowledging is important. Okay, the second step, choosing to forgive. So let's continue with my friend. When when it first happened, she was devastated and just ropeable. Like if looks could kill, her business partner would have been dead. So she spent, a lot of time pitching a fit and then having a pity party. Well, not a lot of time, a little bit of time. But she then thought, well, what am I going to do? Keep pitching a fit about it and cursing them out and feeling horrible and stressed out and anxious and terrified and mad and whatever. So again, she, went to the therapist. But the therapist did tell her that, choosing to forgive that business partner was a choice. Like she could not forgive the business partner. That's a choice as well. But what was that going to give her? It was just going to probably give her a stress heart attack, right? So even though she said to the therapist, I can't, it's not right. It's not fair. I worked really hard. I did all my end of the bargain. I checked in with them. They said they were doing it all. I trusted them. They betrayed my trust, etc. The therapist, whilst acknowledging that's step one, acknowledging the hurt, said, that's true. And I can imagine how horrible that would be. But moving forward, are you going to keep, dragging this massive backpack with you? What's it going to do? Once she realized, what's it going to do? Nothing. She did make the conscious choice to forgive. Number 3, this was hard for her. Understand the other person, right? The other person's point of view. So, I remember clearly having this conversation on the phone with her where she said, can you believe the therapist said, maybe they were going through something? I don't give a shit whether they were going. And I get that, right? I probably would do the same thing. But it's not understanding the person as in, oh, I excuse them and I feel sorry for them. No, it's knowing that it's not personal, right? So it's their kind of baggage and it's their kind of issues. And yes, it was reflected upon you, was projected out upon you, but it was not my friend's fault that the business went under, because the person that she was in business with had, I don't know, family issues and organizational issues and procrastination issues, whatever it is. Okay. So once the therapist sort of talked her around to, this is not condoning it, but you told me that they sometimes were late because that they were having an argument with their wife, or you sometimes told me that there was a custody issue going on. So these are the reasons why that person might have dropped the ball. Not condoning it, not saying it's okay that the business went under, because they should have reached out and you were also checking in and they kept saying it was fine, right? So that person obviously has some issues about, feeling like they don't want to shame themselves out by admitting that they're not coping or whatever it is. So understanding the person isn't about condoning behavior. It's about kind of factually zooming out and looking at the reasons why that might have happened so you can depersonalize it. So that business partner didn't hate on my friend. He was going through some things and he let my friend down for sure, right? But it wasn't that he was purposely sabotaging the business because he didn't like my friend. Okay. So number 3 is understanding the person. Number 4 is releasing expectations. Okay. So when it first happened, she expected him to sort of like grovel and say, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Let's see what we can do. I dropped the ball. You were right. You've done everything right. And I've done everything wrong." He didn't do that. He basically ghosted her and they had to talk through mediators, right? So not only did he drop the ball, then he refused to uh, communicate about it or take any ownership of it or apologize for it, right? So the therapist talked through it with her and said, "You're never going to get that, right? You're never going to get the apology," which is really what she wanted, like that, at least that admission that, yeah, it was me, it wasn't you. And the therapist sort of coached her around the fact that that last piece of the forgiveness puzzle, the reason why she couldn't fully forgive was because she was still expecting an apology or taking some accountability. Okay. And yes, that would be great. But if you don't get it, you have to be able to release that expectation. Otherwise, you're kind of always on that hook. You're still the worm on the hook, right? That every time somebody mentions that person's name or a similar situation, it grabs, right? So whilst it would be great for somebody to say sorry and to own up and have accountability and say, my bad, I was going through a lot and I should have done this and I should have done that or whatever. Sometimes you're not going to get that. So the forgiveness process has to be releasing that expectation. Okay. And the final one, focus on the growth, on personal growth. So it happened. Yeah, you didn't want it to happen, but it did. So what is the lesson that you can take from it? Okay. So this is kind of like the frosting on the cake. This is something that you can then take away with you. You can drop all that poisonous, toxic feeling of hatred and resentment and pick up something that expands you. So, what did you learn? And in my friend's case, she learned that she was too trusting. And I mean, it's not like she's going to become a paranoid, micromanager, but she's now decided that if she ever, it doesn't matter, she's not going to go into business with anyone anymore. She's going to go into it herself. But in any relationship, if there's something that she doesn't know, because she's not, that's not her specialty, she'll learn about it. Because that's how she got into that situation in the first place with her business partner, because he already had a financial background. So when he said, "Oh, you're really good at the customer service, you're really good at this, blah, 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 and then I will do this," she totally just went, yep, that's cool, right? So now what she's going to do is, in any kind of relationship, if she kind of doesn't know what's going on and it's important, she's going to learn, and also invite the other person to sort of learn from her. So it's more of a collaborative approach rather than two separate, like, um, areas, kind of like on a train track that never meet in the middle. Okay. So that's the forgiveness process. And there's been so much research that shows how much happiness, more joy, more empathy, more meaning in life comes from forgiveness. Okay. So just to recap, the five uh, steps in the forgiveness process: acknowledge the hurt. Okay. Start from there. Say, yep, I'm hurt. This is what happened to me. Right. Choose to forgive. It's a choice. If you don't choose forgiveness, you'll be carrying around that toxic, poisonous stuff in your system for weeks, years, or sometimes a lifetime. Understand the person. So, kind of zoom out. Don't feel sorry for them, and don't condone, but have a look at the circumstances around which they did it, right? And that depersonalizes it for you. Number 4, don't expect them to own up, say sorry, or be accountable. It'd be great if they did, but it's not necessary for you in order to forgive. And finally, focus on the personal growth. What have you learnt from this whole experience, right? What's the blessing and what's the lesson? So it's a powerful process, simple process, but unbelievably transformative. Okay. From my personal experience and from my coaching clients, when I was doing the coaching, very, very powerful. It's a liberation for you. Forgiveness is not for them, forgiveness is for you. And we want to make the rest of our life the best of our life. Okay. So forgiveness is a key part of that. All right. So that's it from me. Again, check out the show notes for the first part, which is all about how to deal with conflict and how to avoid it as well. So if you haven't liked this video, please do, because that tells YouTube that what I'm sharing is valuable to you and helpful. If you know someone that maybe is stuck drinking the poison or carrying the big backpack around and you don't want that for them anymore, please share this video. Hit the bell notification because I drop a new video every week. And until then, let's make, oh, please subscribe. Sometimes I forget that. If you don't subscribe, then you really have to search a lot to find my videos. But if you subscribe, YouTube takes that as, I quite like these videos. They're helpful to me. I really like them. Pop it up in my feed so you don't have to go searching around. Okay. So until then, let's make the rest of our life the best of our life. And I will talk to you soon. Bye for now.